Bring in the stunt double. Action!
Thanks a lot, Boomer.
This was a great idea, Boomer. Yeah, good job.
Not a very good job.
I think it slows down every 3 rotations.
Yeah, Boomer, you were right.
No, this is very boring.
Okay, Boomer, whatever you say.
So just remember that the operating cash flow to current liabilities is equivalent to the cash flow from operating activities divided by the average current liabilities. And that's how financial accounting works. Net cash flow from operating activities is obtained from the statement of cash flows. It represents the excess amount of cash derived from operation during the year after deducting working capital needs and payments required on current liabilities. The denominator is the average of the beginning and ending current liabilities for the year.
How do you do this? I can't figure this out. Boomer, can you show me? Oh, wait, you don't have thumbs. How insensitive of me.
Matt, do you think the paint's dry?
I don't know. Should we find out? Yeah.
No, we can't do that. What if it's not dry?
That's true. Hey, Boomer!
Go. Man, do you think this paint's dry yet?
I don't know. Let's find out.
No, we don't know if it's dry yet. Go. Man, do you think the paint's dry yet?
I can't look at you! Look at the paint.
Okay.
Look only at the wall.
Go. Man, look at this paint. You think it's dry yet?
No, I don't know. Let's find.
No, I haven't done it.
Okay, come on, get it together.
Man, come on, come on. Okay.
Okay.
Ow! Okay, I'll do the first line.
No, I want to
Fine, do it. So. It'll restart.
Anytime, it's still
Man, do you
going.
think this paint's dry?
I'll go.
Man, look at this wall. You think it's dry yet? I don't know. Let's find out.
No, we don't know if it's dry.